All right, let's get into it. Today we're cracking open a cosmic cold case file that's, get this, 66 million years old. We're going to piece together the evidence, look at all the suspects, and try to solve one of the greatest mysteries in the history of life on Earth. So, let the investigation begin.
I mean, this is the big one, right? The question that's fascinated all of us since we were kids. Was it just one single terrible event, or was there something more complicated going on? We're going to follow the forensic trail together and find out.
So let's go back to the scene of the crime, the very end of the Cretaceous period. Picture it. This was a day that literally changed the world forever. It kicked off what scientists now call the Cretaceous-Paleogene Extinction Event, or KPG for short. And you know, this wasn't just a bad day for the dinosaurs. It was a full-blown apocalypse for the entire planet.
And the sheer scale of the devastation, it's just staggering. Nearly 3/4 of all species on Earth wiped out. We're talking plants, we're talking marine life, and of course, those magnificent non-avian dinosaurs. The world's ecosystems were just completely brought to their knees.
Okay, so for a long time, the prime suspect in our investigation has been a killer from outer space. The theory goes that a gigantic rock slammed into the Earth, and honestly, the evidence for this is incredibly strong. So, let's dig into the clues.
So the first huge break in the case came back in the 1980s, and it was a total game changer. Before this, ideas about why the dinosaurs died were, well, they were mostly just theories. But then, this father-son team, Lewis and Walter Alvarez, found this weird layer of clay everywhere around the globe, and it was packed with this element, iridium, which is super rare here on Earth, but really common in asteroids. For the first time, scientists had hard, physical evidence linking this mass extinction to something from space. It was like finding a cosmic fingerprint right at the scene of the crime.
A fingerprint is great, but you need the murder weapon, right? Well, after years of searching, they found it. Buried deep under the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, there's a colossal impact crater, the Chicxulub crater. It's a staggering 180 kilometers across. And the age? You guessed it, a perfect match, 66 million years ago.
And the final nail in the coffin, at least for this part of the case, was something called shocked quartz. All around the crater, geologists found these little silica grains that have been, well, shattered on a microscopic level. The pressure needed to do that is so intense, you only see it in two places, inside a nuclear explosion or a massive asteroid impact. So, case closed? Not so fast.
Yeah, just when the case seemed totally open and shut, new evidence started popping up, telling a much more complicated story. What if our main suspect, that giant asteroid, didn't actually act alone? What if it had an accomplice?
So, let me introduce you to suspect number 2, the Deccan Traps in what is now India. And listen, this wasn't just one volcano. We're talking about a series of relentless, colossal eruptions that went on for thousands of years, basically turning the Earth against its own inhabitants.
And here's the absolute kicker. This whole thing started before the asteroid ever arrived. These volcanoes were spewing out enough lava to cover huge parts of the continent. They were pumping just unbelievable amounts of CO2 and sulfur into the atmosphere, which caused these wild climate swings and created devastating acid rain. The planet was already sick. It was already under incredible stress.
So now we've got two culprits, a killer from space and a planet that's already in turmoil. The scientific consensus today doesn't really point to one or the other, but to a terrifying combination of both. It was the perfect storm, a devastating 1-2 punch.
Let's just compare their methods for a second. On one hand, you have the asteroid. That was an instant shock, a global heat wave that set the world on fire, followed immediately by an impact winter as all that debris blocked out the sun. But on the other hand, you had the volcanoes. That was a slow poison, a long, drawn-out period of climate chaos and acid rain that wore everything down.
This quote from the research really just sums it up perfectly. The Deccan Traps had already weakened the world's ecosystems. They made everything fragile and vulnerable. So the asteroid wasn't just a killer blow out of nowhere. It was the final, finishing blow, the Coup de Grâce, delivered to a world that was already on its knees.
So, let's trace that final collapse. The impact winter plunges the entire Earth into darkness. With no sun, photosynthesis just stops. Plants start dying off, everywhere. This immediately yanks the foundation out from under the entire global food web. The massive plant eaters starve first, and then of course the giant predators who hunted them starve too. It was a complete catastrophic cascading failure. But here's a really fascinating twist in the story. Scientifically speaking, the dinosaurs didn't actually vanish completely. One very specific group somehow managed to survive the apocalypse.
So why? Why did one group survive when the other one got wiped out? Well, this table makes it pretty clear. The non-avian dinosaurs, your T-Rex, your Triceratops, they were huge. They had massive energy needs. In a collapsed ecosystem, they were totally doomed. But their smaller feathered cousins, the Paravians, they had some key advantages. They were small, they could fly to find food, and they could get by on things like seeds and insects. They didn't just survive, they thrived and eventually evolved into the birds we see all around us today.
So, we've solved the case. It was a terrible combination of planetary stress and a cosmic catastrophe. But what are the long-term consequences of all this? What's the real legacy of this fallen world?
Well, for about 150 million years, dinosaurs were the undisputed kings of the planet. And mammals, our ancestors, they were mostly just these tiny creatures hiding in the shadows, trying not to get eaten. But with the giants gone, a whole world of opportunity opened up. This radical upheaval basically cleared the board, leaving all these empty roles in the ecosystem, and it allowed our mammalian ancestors to finally step out into the light, to diversify and to flourish.
And that, right there, brings us to the final and kind of mind-blowing takeaway. Their ending was, in a very, very real sense, our beginning. The exact same cataclysm that sealed the fate of the dinosaurs kicked off the chain of events that would one day lead to us, a 66-million-year-old cold case that, when you finally solve it, points right back to our own existence.